If you want to live in Australia and hope for a better life by getting permanent residency in Australia, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll know how the PR system in Australia works and the most common pathways to live in Australia permanently. But first, why move to Australia in the first place? Did you know that the minimum wage for international students in Australia is around 21,000 per year? Comparing that to Indian rupees, that's around 11 lakh, or if you compare that to Fiji dollars, that's $30,000, which pretty much puts you in the top 10% of all people in those countries. Can you believe it that the lowest you can make in Australia is still higher than 90% of what the people in India or Fiji make? It's also one of the best places for education, and there's a pretty high standard of living compared to the rest of the world. Things are getting better for most countries, but there's still a long way to go. But sometimes, no matter how hard you try, the unfortunate truth is that there just aren't any good opportunities available to live the life you want where you are right now. By the way, most international students in Australia actually earn around double the amount, and the average salary is $68,202 for Australian citizens. So what does PR in Australia actually allow you to do? As a permanent resident of Australia, you generally can remain in Australia as long as you want, work in Australia, study in Australia, enroll in Australia's amazing national healthcare scheme, Medicare, apply for bank loans to buy property, sponsor your relatives that are eligible for permanent residency, travel to and from Australia as long as your travel facility permits, you can work in New Zealand, and apply for Australian citizenship if you're eligible. If this is something you want, you need to know how the PR system in Australia actually works. And that's exactly what we're going over next. Permanent residency in Australia works on a points-based system. The higher your points, the higher your chance of becoming an Australian permanent resident. Here are the things that you can get points from: your visa subclass, your age, your English language ability, your highest qualification, having an Australian qualification, your overseas work experience and your Australian work experience, your partner skills qualification, completing a professional year in Australia, studying in a regional area in Australia, becoming a certified translator, and if you're sponsored by a state or territory government. You need at least 65 points to apply, but you should aim to get your points as high as possible to increase your chances of success. Each one of these things can give you a range of points depending on your situation. For example, here's how many points you get for your age. If you're between 18 to 24, you'll get 25 points. If you're between 25 to 32, you'll get 30 points. If you're between 33 to 39, you'll get 25 points. And if you're between 40 to 44, you'll get 15 points. If you're above 45, you can only apply for PR under exceptional circumstances. That's pretty much a general overview of how the PR system in Australia actually works, and the types of things that can help you get it. There are three main pathways for PR in Australia. If you have more than 65 points and qualify for one of the visas that lead to PR in Australia, here are the steps you need to go through. Number one is to check if you're eligible. Number two is to submit an expression of interest or an EOI for your preferred visa. Number three is to get invited to apply for the visa if your EOI is approved. Number four is to apply for your visa, which grants you the PR. Number five is to get your visa accepted. And number six, the most important, enjoy your life in Australia as an Australian permanent resident and hopefully a future citizen. As I said, there's three main visas for PR in Australia. The first of which is a skilled independent visa, which is a subclass 189. This lets invited workers with skills needed by Australia to live and work permanently anywhere in Australia. With this visa, you can stay in Australia permanently, work and study anywhere in Australia, sponsor eligible relatives to come to Australia, travel to and from Australia for 5 years, and if eligible, become an Australian citizen. For this visa, you must have an occupation on the relevant skilled occupation list. So this is a list of desired occupations determined by the Australian government. You must have a suitable skills assessment for this occupation and be invited to apply for the visa and satisfy the points test. Studying in Australia is a popular option that people use to reach the pathway, since it's a great way to experience Australia while also increasing your points for a number of different areas such as education, work experience in Australia, and a lot of other things. You can also apply directly for the visa without having to study in Australia depending on your occupation, your qualification, education, work experience, and meeting other requirements. The second is a skilled nominated visa. The skilled nominated visa is almost the same as a skilled independent visa, but for this visa, you must be nominated for this visa by an Australian state or territory government agency. Different Australian states and territories have different requirements for the types of people they need to help grow their economy. For example, New South Wales is quite a popular state, but since there's already a lot of people here, increasing the amount of competition and already working here, it's a lot harder to get PR in New South Wales for some occupations. For other occupations, it's still quite easy. If you compare that to a state like Tasmania, which is a regional area and has a smaller population, it's relatively easier to get PR there. since they need a lot more skilled workers to help grow their economy. You also get more points for studying and living in a regional area. Even though it may be easier to get nominated by a regional state or territory, you can still get nominated by a popular state like New South Wales or Victoria and apply for this visa. And the third most popular pathway to PR in Australia is a work pathway. This is a subclass 482 visa. The general overview for this visa is that you can get sponsored by a company in Australia and can then move here to work. If you don't have at least 3 years of experience in your occupation, you need to first get sponsored by an Australian company and work with them for 3 years on a temporary work visa before you're granted a permanent work visa. If you already have 3 years experience in your occupation, then the company can sponsor you directly for a permanent work visa. With this visa, you can become a permanent resident directly without having to either study in Australia or meeting the points test. There's also the business or investor stream permanent visa and the family stream permanent visa, but we'll go over those in a different video. Over the past few years, we've helped countless people live the type of life they want by helping them get their visa, study, and helping them with permanent residency in Australia. If you want to start the process of studying in Australia, living or getting your PR in Australia, or if you just need help with your situation, go to easyeducation.com.au/get started, or click the link in the description below. I look forward to helping you live the life you want in Australia.